Hey there, it's me, Schwankekong. Now, if you're one of my normal followers over on Twitch who's looking up on this YouTube, who's looking and going, what? He didn't stream yesterday. I don't remember this stream. What is this? Very simply put, this is something different from the stream. This is something that's much more of a podcast. My bad. Um, it's gonna have a lot more of that podcast feel to it. It's something that I want to do when we have these large projects like our mob farm right now, where we have a lot of blocks to place, and it's just going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time on a stream where we can be doing some fun other things, building some farms, building up some new areas like the village down there, where this is going to be repetitive, same block all the time. That's why we're doing this. Now, I understand it seems weird, like this isn't the normal content, and it's not going to be. This isn't something that's intended to be streamed. This is something where it's just repetitive motion. There's a lot of Minecrafters who make videos. I think specifically of the Hermitcraft videos where they do time lapses of everything. And I'm not at the point where I possess that capability. I don't have a second account. I don't have the know how to make a time lapse. So it's like, well, what if we did a podcast? And you might be wondering, what could a podcast be about? What would you talk about? What would you be interested in making a podcast about? Well, it's something that I'm kind of trying to make my livelihood off of. And it kind of inspired my what apparently is actually like a wrestling uniform of a skin. It's superheroes. More importantly, the thought processes of superheroes. Like thinking about how Steve came back out of the ice, the thought process that went into him coming out of the ice, the thought process of what it would have been like, what he had in this life that was worth staying in this life for, versus what would be more worth it to stay in the past. Like, what was his mindset coming out of it? How did he adjust to it? And then also things like other characters like Yandu and Rocket, who they they seem annoying. They seem like they're pains, and they're very loud and boisterous characters. But how are they actually caring fathers? How does that translate? How do we get these characters that are rambunctious, loud, pains in the butt to other characters, and then they got this tender side where they will do anything to protect a child? They will do anything to protect a specific child that they consider their son. And looking at the how Thor mentally dealt with all of his trauma in his life, how he started covering it up, and we start seeing this strong and confident man turn into this not cowardly. Cowardly isn't the right word for it, but a broken and worn out man, where the confidence is gone, where he doesn't believe that what he can do anymore. He doesn't believe that he can get the job done anymore. Like, he can't win a fight. He doesn't believe that him showing up on a battlefield makes much of a difference. Like in the first Thor and the second Thor, where they make it very apparent his thought process is, I show up, the battle's won. Where he's lost that. Because even though he might have won in some situations, he really lost. So that's going to be the point of this video. That's why it's going up on YouTube. It's a podcast. Like, I would love to interact with my fans, or not my fans, my followers right now. Don't get a big head. I would love to do that, but this is something that can be done off stream, and it's warranted to different types of content. Like, I want my followers to come in and we're doing awesome things all the time. I want where we're starting to build stuff that's really cool all the time. This is very much so repetitive motion. If you watch this, like for the video aspect, I think you have insomnia. Like, that would be the only reason to watch the video. I want this to be much more as a podcast. I want this to be much more of a something to listen to rather than something to watch. But today, I kind of I want to talk about Thor. That's what's in my heart right now. I want to talk about Thor because I think Thor is so interesting. But there are a couple things that I want to talk about first before we get to Thor. There's a couple of things that I think I really need to just state. If you're watching this and you're not one of my normal followers on Twitch, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to the channel, obviously subscribing to the channel helps a lot. But also come check out the streams. That's where we're making all the cool stuff. That's where we made this mob farm. That's where we built up these pillars and finalized a design on that. That's where we built this up, and we're working on this stuff, the bathhouse, the main base, our sheep and wool farm, and then we're also building up a village over here for our villagers. So if you're new, if you're watching this on YouTube, you've never seen me before, come join us over on Twitch. I stream at night. It's 2-hour streams. It's not that labor intensive. It's really we are a chill chat. We're a crazy chat, but we're not necessarily a bad chat. We're not like you come, you say hi, we're gonna all say hi back. That's what I want from our community. You are welcome to join us. You are more than welcome to come say hi. So, with that out of the way, subscribe if you would. It's totally up to you. If you're like, this guy's boring, I get it. I get it. I've been told that my entire life. But if you're like, this guy's all right. The voice is all right. If you're like, I like Minecraft, this podcast kind of worked. I like superheroes. Feel free to subscribe. This is what this video style is going to be, is more of this podcasting. We're talking about superheroes, their thoughts and their feelings and all that, and how they respond to certain things in different ways. That's what these videos are going to be. But if you want, come join us over on Twitch. Twitch is where most of my stuff is going to be going up. It's where most of the streams come from that are also on this channel. It's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then also we try to do Saturdays as well, where we work on this a lot. We'll be working on like the wall design, the interior, stuff like that. So if you want to, feel free to subscribe. I'll have my Twitch linked in the bio, and I'll have my Twitter linked in my bio. Now, why do I link my Twitter? Well, there's something that we're doing right now, and it's going till the end of March, I want to say. We're doing it till. I'll have to double check that, but what we're doing is a giveaway. Now, it's not big, it's not fancy, it's not like we're giving away 10 PS5s. I don't have the money for that, honestly, but I want to do something. Like, times have sucked the past year, and it's like that's the first and foremost thing. Like, times have sucked. There's no way around it. So it's like I want to do what I can. So we're doing a giveaway right now, where first place gets $50 off, or a $50 grocery card. Now, this, if you need it, use it for groceries by all means. But we're doing this because there are some members in my chat who I feel like have an unhealthy obsession with Dr. Pepper. And I was like, well, what if we did a giveaway where we just gave a bunch of Dr. Pepper away or something like that, or like their favorite sports drink? And it's like, well, what if somebody wins the giveaway and it's like, well, no, we need food to survive. Like, it's desperate. Taking away $50 worth of groceries is a lot more helpful than getting X amount of Dr. Pepper 12 packs, right? Like, that's the reason for the $50 grocery card for first place. Now, first place will also get 2 t-shirts in whatever size they want. One is going to be of the book that I think I mentioned earlier, but that I'm writing currently. It's or that I'm working on currently. The first volume's done written wise. Now it's just getting it made, labeled, not labeled. It's getting it made, drawn out, and then published. It's a t-shirt for that. We're getting a new logo made. Should have it here in the next few days. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited for it. And then also the other t-shirt is going to be again Schwankekong. The channel of Schwankekong. It's going to be the first merch of Schwankekong that anybody owns. And again, it's going to have a new label or it's going to have a new logo. It's going to look awesome. I got the same person doing both the logos, and I'm really excited about the work that they do. And I think it is just going to be absolutely awesome and fantastic. So that's first place. Second place, they'll get a Schwankekong t-shirt and then a $25 grocery gift card. It's really simple to enter. Basically, you leave a comment on this video and subscribe. And you don't have to subscribe. Never mind. I'm going to scratch that. Just leave a comment on this video. Or you can go over, follow me over on Twitch. We're trying to build our community. We're wanting to build this great community where it's all about being there for each other. And it's not a creator first, it's a community first community. Like, it's pointless for me to be a creator if my community's not going to be awesome. And I want awesome people in my community. So I'm going to that's what this is meant for. I want to find awesome people. I want awesome people to start being a part of it. So that's that. Now that's out of the way. We'll get into more of the podcasting part. It's like I just needed to say that up front. So yeah, you follow me over on Twitch. If you follow me over on Twitter and then retweet any of my tweets regarding to streams or new videos on YouTube, that'll get you an entry. That's as simple as it is. That'll get you an entry. So, that being said, we got to do a bit of work here just to make this all lay out well. But that being said, let's explore Thor. Let's explore Thor. Like, what makes Thor Thor? Right? So, in the first Thor movie, Thor is very one-dimensional, right? He's very much so this brute who thinks only about himself. And I fell. And there really isn't much there in terms of him thinking about others in the beginning. And that's the main point of the first movie is him learning to care for other people. Him learning to think about his actions before he just runs off and starts doing something. Like starting a war with the ice giants, right? Now, okay, so that's how I made work here. This is up there. Okay, so I know how I gotta fix this. But Thor is very much so arrogant in the first movie. He's overly confident about his own capabilities. Now, it's not entirely a bad thing. It's not entirely a bad thing to be confident. It isn't, right? There is a sense where you need to be confident in your life, like me being confident that this will have any chance of succeeding. It's like you need to be confident about it. If you're not confident about it, people aren't going to believe it. Whereas, but there is such a thing, and we see it out of Thor in this first movie, where he's overly confident. He thinks lowly of people about just about everybody. Where he thinks he is stronger than everybody. He thinks nobody is his equal. He thinks the moment he jumps on a battlefield, he's won. And Odin, to Odin's respect, puts him in his place. He says, "No, you're nothing without the power that is bestowed to you because of Asgard." He says, your personality is your power, essentially. He says, "There's nothing about you that's redeeming. There's nothing about you that fights for honor. You seek war because that is what your personality is." Which, as a god of thunder, it's kind of like, well, thunder is associated to lightning. The lightning can be kind of hot-headed. It it's powerful and inconsistent, right? Like it'll show up in a flash and be gone in a flash. That's what lightning is. It's a flash of light. But Odin looks at him and goes, "You're nothing without your power. If you want your power back, you need to become something without your power. You need to be able to lay down your life and risk everything without your power. You need to fight for the protection of others. You need to fight in a smarter regard than just fighting to fight." That's why he says, "You're not worthy. Whoever's worthy shall bestow the power of this hammer, or be bestowed the power of Thor." Where he's going, you are Thor, not this hammer. And I think that's just how you look at that. It's like a father saying to his son, what's a comparison that I can make? It's a father who owns, let's say your father owns a farm, and all your life you're going, "Oh yeah, eventually I'll inherit the dad's farm," but you're never out there to help him with chores. You go around driving these big trucks saying, "Yeah, we own this farm, where we provide food for people," but you never plow the fields. Where and it's going, your dad one day goes, "Until you can prove it to me, you're not getting this farm. Until you prove to me that you know the work that needs to be done, you're willing to put in the work that needs to be done, you're not getting this farm." Which honestly, if you're in this power or this position where you're bestowing power or giving out power, or in the farmer's situation, you're providing a service that is necessary, i.e., farming, you need to make sure that the next person behind you is in it for the right reasons. And I feel like that was Odin's reasoning for banishing Thor. Was he wanted Thor to be the ruler, but if Thor was a ruler who sought out violence, Odin saw chaos like in his beginning years with Hela, which we obviously don't learn about until later on, but that had to be a thought going through Odin's mind at the time. Was, is this going to be Hela where all it is destruction and conquering? Is it not thinking about the people that you rule over? It's like, yes, Odin probably could have done a better job by not hiding everything, but at the same time, wisdom is gained by mistake. And I know that sounds weird, but you become wise not because of things succeeding, you become wise because of things failing. That's where wisdom comes from. It's knowing what not to do. And I like to take the adage of, I will learn by other people's mistakes so I don't make those same mistakes. And yeah, there's a sense where you can do that, but not everything's going to have those moments of time where you can be like that. We'll use the back entrance here. Like, I can learn from my coworker, well, okay, maybe we shouldn't do this while on a forklift or something, because it's a big event where it doesn't happen every day, but I'm not gonna be. There are things where it's like it just comes down to a laziness standpoint of, well, what if I just do this instead? Where all of a sudden in your brain you're going, well, we could get away with this, can't we? And then eventually it catches up with you, and you go, oh, that's why. That's why we needed to do that. So wisdom is something that's gained through failure. It's through learning from your mistakes. That's what wisdom is. It's using your mistakes to make great decisions. It's using your mistakes to learn and grow. That is wisdom. And Odin saw the pain and hurt that these conquering these missions to conquer the nine realms, what they caused. He saw that when he adopted Loki, and he saw they have children just like us. They have families just like us. So he's not in the place where he's going to go, I am going to bestow the rule to a king or bestow rule to a prince who is going to seek out war. He has that belief that a wise king does not seek out war, but is always ready for it. And that's something that's repeated with between Thor and Hela later on, where very obviously he said the same thing to both of them. The question is did he allow for Hela to redeem herself before he banished her? And when she didn't, she got banished. Now, I think it is a bit easier to be like, well, Thor was different than Hela in this sense, this sense, and this sense. Whereas Thor was going to fight because he wanted to protect his people, and he wanted to protect his kingdom, whereas Hela was wanting to fight because she wanted death. Now, I believe there is a difference there. There is a very big difference and key difference that we need to make there. Like the reasons why they wanted to fight. Where Thor was waiting and itching, like he still had that little bit of holding back, like, yeah, we shouldn't always fight. But if they do something, oh, if they look at us wrong, we're gonna fight. Whereas Hela was going, no, we're gonna push their buttons. We're gonna instigate everything. We're gonna go get some more bricks. Because I want to get a bit more done with this. But Thor was much more of a once something happens, then we're gonna act. It's weird that blocked it, but okay. But yeah, and then we see him grow throughout that movie where he suddenly realizes, well, it's not always about the fight. Sometimes it's about protecting the people. That's why you need to fight, is to protect people, not to fight. And it is something that's like, it's a downtrodden, over and over. We see this story all along. But he redeems himself at the end of the second Thor movie. It is what it is. The one downside is I haven't really seen the second movie. And like that's part of it on me, but there is still a lot of emotions you can take out of it where he's growing even more then. And you can start to see this sense of he wants to work with Loki. He wants to work with Loki and accomplish something with Loki. Obviously, he thought he had lost Loki, and then Loki came back in Avengers. And yeah, but in the same movie, he lost his mother, who he cherished fondly. And all of a sudden, we start to see this chink in the armor where Thor's starting to question, can I protect the people that I love? Where it's like he's understanding that he needs to fight in order to protect the people he loves, but if he starts losing them, what's the point to fighting? Like, what's the point of trying? So that seed starts getting planted early, where his mother is suddenly gone, and there really wasn't anything he could do about it. He couldn't go back and save her, right? And then, so we get through that movie, and all of a sudden we get to Ragnarok. Now, Ragnarok comes after Age of Ultron, so throughout Age of Ultron, we start to see Thor open up. He starts getting comfortable with the Avengers. We start seeing what he's like with people he fights alongside with and trusts. We start to see that through Age of Ultron, where it's not so much he's this grouchy, always talks a certain way with everybody throughout that movie, like he did earlier on, where it was all business all the time. Now he's starting to open up more. They're partying, they're having revels, as he would say, and they're going on these missions, and they succeed, right? But in that movie, he gets a vision where he sees everybody dead, and the one thing that sticks out is Heimdall going, "You've killed us. You've killed us." It's that seed of thought of going, "Am I a failure? Like, is what I'm doing actually helping my people, or is what I am doing hurting them?" And it's odd. It is, but I think it's an interesting way to looking at it, where all of a sudden you have like nobody expected that, right? When Wanda messed with his head, everybody went, "Wait, what was that?" And all of a sudden, what the Avengers had been up until that point, where it was a lot more cheery, hunky dory. There's a lot of jokes always being made. Now all of a sudden, Tony sees everybody dead. Natasha's back in her red room. Thor sees himself as a failure as a king. And I think what Natasha played off of was their greatest fears at the time. I know that sounds weird, but not. I said Natasha. I meant Wanda. Played off to make these memories was their greatest fears at the time. But in that memory, for whatever reason, and I believe, and it's like this could very well be the Mind Stone that does it, but it places in that little bit about the Infinity Stones, and Thor all of a sudden goes, we need to figure out about this, we need to figure out about this. Almost like you need to know about this now before it's too late. And we don't really think about that. Like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, he sees vision and all that, like what vision needs to be. But we don't think about it that the Mind Stone, even though it was playing out a fear of his, it interjected itself there. But I do believe that was based off of a fear. All of theirs were, where Steve was all of a sudden at peace, and it was like, this doesn't make sense. Why would his be at peace? Well, he's a man who always seeks out a war, which is in some ways similar to Thor. He is not. He views himself as nothing without a war to fight, because he grew up and on the tails of World War One, and all of a sudden there's World War Two, and he's learned about the Great War from years beyond, and now all of a sudden there's another war, and he goes, I need to fight, and he's given this power where it makes him the most capable soldier out of all of them. So there's a lot of ways where it's like they're similar in that way, where they're both these soldiers always looking for the next fight. Which it could be an interesting thing. Like, I know they came out and said that Steve was always able to lift the hammer, but in that moment, what did that vision change Steve in a way? Was Steve looking for a way to end the fight? Or was Steve looking for a way to get out of the fight? But I think we're getting a little off track here. But for Thor, we go on from Age of Ultron. He's seen this vision. He knows what he needs to do with the Infinity Stones. He's off fighting these missions to protect Asgard and bring peace, and he goes back to Asgard, thinking he lost his brother, obviously, and Thor too. And he gets back and he goes, what's going on? Everything's in chaos. And he gets this inkling of something's not right. Like, obviously, as an audience, we already know that Odin is, in fact, Loki, masquerading as Odin. But Thor gets this thought that something's not right. The Nine Realms are all out of whack. Everybody's starting to take up arms. He just came back from fighting Surtur and defeating Surtur, who said he was going to bring about Ragnarok. And it's like Surtur was quaking at the boots of Odin, in a way. So he's going, something just don't feel right. I do like, because I think eventually we'll be able to take off that roof and then just have it all straight. But then he starts getting this inkling like, something's not right. So he exposes Loki in front of everybody. Now, I think that's a bit of an interesting move, but yeah, it's really not important. But all of a sudden, his brother is back again. And it's like, how many times are you going to do this? Are you going to die and come back? It's like it's really getting out of hand. And he goes, so where's Odin? Well, Loki takes him to Odin, finds his father, and as they're talking, you just get this sense that something's about to go. And then Odin dies. So all of a sudden, Thor is left sitting there. He now has lost his mother, his father, and he's sitting next to his brother, who is constantly faking his death. And he doesn't really trust him. Like, he wants to trust him, but he knows he can't. Because Loki's always trying to do something or cause something. And it's just like, he wants to trust Loki, but he has nobody really to trust anymore. And he's really leaning on Mjolnir. Well, then all of a sudden Hela comes back and they're fighting, and he gets kicked off, and or he gets kicked out of the tunnel, and they wind up in this world, and all of a sudden he has to fight, and we start to see this, like, throughout Ragnarok, we see this side of Thor that is very open and very goofy, is how I would want to put it, where he's not really thinking rational the entire time. There are ideas that he has that, yes, they do work out, but at the same time, he's just spitballing ideas throughout the movie. And he starts acting very goofy. He isn't really there thinking about it wise. And it's just kind of going like, something's different. Something's different. What I think that is it's him just slowly starting to slip. It's nothing against him, but he's starting to slip. He's lost his mother, now his father. And for all he knows, his world is being tormented right now. And there's nothing he can do to stop it. There's nothing he can do to stop it. And it's like, it's just eating at him away and away and away and away. And we see this where he's so focused on a goal, he's not thinking about other things. He's not thinking about how things might turn out, how he might be hurting the people around him. He's so focused on his own goal, he's starting to lose sight of other people. He's starting to go, I'm nothing, but I need to get there. I need to help him in some way. He's too focused on being this hero, this protector, that he doesn't see his own pain and his own grief is starting to build up, and he's not taking care of himself. He's just so focused on his own goal, and I think that's because he thinks, or that's not because he thinks he's going to collapse if he starts thinking about himself, but he almost knows if he starts thinking about himself, there's something, his weaknesses are going to start to come through. People are going to start to see the pain he's in. and he's supposed to be this king who's supposed to have an answer for everything. So he's just spitballing ideas to try and save his people. He's just spitballing things left and right, trying to do something right. Because he feels like he's been a failure for being gone for so long, to allow Loki to take up Asgard like he did, and not taking care of Asgard like he should have been. So he goes through, he fights his sister, and he regains, like, oh, I need to be. And he has this come to, like, almost a come to Jesus moment, but I guess it would be more aptly named come to Odin moment, where his father speaks to him and goes, "Are you the god of hammers or the god of thunder? Who are you? Who are you really?" Because in a way, through learning to fight for others, he's lost that confidence that comes from believing that you can win every fight. He's starting to lose that confidence as he's lost his mother and now his father, and he's not Thor in a way. He believes that his strength comes from a hammer in a way, where it's like I can't be anything without it. When we've seen, nah, you can be pretty darn powerful without it. But as it goes on, there is that realization, well, Asgard isn't this place. This place isn't meant to be Asgard. Ragnarok isn't meant to destroy the people of Asgard. It's meant to destroy the rock that we live on. It's meant to destroy our planet. But Asgard will live on as long as the people do. So all of a sudden he loses his home because he's protecting his people. So he's lost his home. He's lost his father. He's lost his mother. And we have yet to really see him fully grow through stages of grief. We haven't seen him really confront his grief. And it's building. He's lost his home, yes. He's gained a friend in Valkyrie. He has Hulk. He has Loki. But he's lost his home. Something that he feel he could have prevented if he would have taken more responsibility earlier. And now he's taking up the mantle of king of a lost people. Which brings us to Infinity War, where all of a sudden they're attacked by Thanos' ship. Obviously can't protect it. We have to assume that half of the people made it out on lifeboats. Where all of a sudden, hey, how would I put this? Again, Thor isn't strong enough. Like, he has his power of, like, he's the god of thunder, but he's still not strong enough. So he goes on this search going, I need this axe, I need this axe. And we see him again getting extremely dialed in on one detail. Now, it was the right detail, but he's so focused on getting that last word in with Thanos, he doesn't take the right action. All it is he's using others to fulfill his own goals with what's his name? Eitri, I want to say. Where Eitri's like, I lost everything. I lost all of my people. I lost my hands. Thor's like, no, you haven't. He's building him up because Thor's like, we can still win. So he's pouring energy into Eitri in order to complete this weapon. And again, he's not reflecting on his own pain. Which leads to he is so focused on getting his revenge for Thanos and making Thanos feel something that once he does get this weapon, and he is the Thor that we saw in the first movie, where he shows up and the battle turns to the Avengers side, where all of a sudden he turns the tide of the battle like he did in the first Thor and the second Thor. but he had kind of stopped doing once he had Stormbreak. He turned the tide of the battle. And then he went, yes, I'm going to get this awesome moment. I'm going to get the final blow on Thanos. I'm going to prevent everything. And then, in order to, I want to say to almost showboat over Thanos, instead of going for the head, which would have been a very wise thing, like, again, hindsight. Obviously, that was the right decision. It would have been good to go for the head. But instead, he goes for the chest, and he wants Thanos to feel his pain. He's passing his pain off onto somebody else. Whereas if he had actually sat down and processed some of the grief at some point, he might have been like, we need to make sure he is fully incapacitated. We can't. He's dangerous as long as he's still breathing. We're gonna work on something else for right now. As long as he's still breathing, he's dangerous. If he would have taken that approach, things could have fared far differently. Like, there's a chance Infinity War is the only movie because Thanos fails. I'm gonna work on our pillars right now, but so that leads to the question of why didn't he go for the head? It's like everybody's going, why didn't you go for the head? Like, obviously he should have gone for the head. But he's trying to pass his pain off onto Thanos. He's trying to make Thanos feel the pain that he felt when he lost Loki, his last member of his family. Like, he doesn't even have his evil sister anymore. So, was it a surprise when all of a sudden we retreated to Fat Thor in Endgame? I don't think anybody saw it coming, but at the same time, it's one of those moments where it takes you back and you go, yeah, actually, that makes complete sense. The amount of grief that Thor has gone through, the amount of pain that he's felt, because this is now a man that we have seen on screen lose his mother, lose his father, lose his home, then lose his brother. And then when he thought he was going to get a measure of revenge against the person that killed his brother, that was brilliant. All of a sudden, that's a failure too. He had victory in his hands, and even though he did almost everything correctly, victory still slipped through his fingers. And that was kind of like the final push, where all of a sudden he lost it. Where we find Thor all of a sudden he's this alcoholic, he's put on an extreme amount of weight. And I truly do believe that scene where he's talking with his mother and he reaches for Mjolnir, which he knows is still around at this time, and it comes to him, it adds this measure of confidence that he's been missing. He's been missing confidence. He's been trying to fill this void, which he has because of the pain in his heart, or the pain in him with alcohol. He's been trying to fill it through means that aren't healthy. That was odd. And now suddenly, this hammer that's supposed to only come to worthy people, like Thor, after he learned his valuable lessons in the first movie, it still comes to him. Like, it's like your grief isn't in the wrong spot. It's like you're not grieving for no reason. It's completely and totally natural to grieve. It's saying your worthiness isn't defined by your pain. Your worthiness isn't necessarily how you respond to it, because he turned into an alcoholic. That's what we saw, was an alcoholic. We saw this alcoholic that was depressed and in pain, who was hiding himself from his people. He was hiding himself because he felt like this great failure. but the one thing that is bestowed to make sure that he still remains worthy, and it's kind of his moral compass, still believes that he's worthy. The amount of little nuances that they built into Thor, even though at the beginning it was like Thor was very unwatchable, mainly because of how he acted towards other people, where he was this overly confident, cocky person. Obviously, the Elizabethan era talking didn't exactly help, where it was everything was essentially what would you call it? Oh my gosh, a Shakespeare play. Obviously, that didn't help the movies, but at the same time, it's because he was overly confident. He was very much so thinking he was right all the time. And now we have these movies where he's doubting himself. He doesn't have any of the confidence that he had before, because I think if he even had like a shred of it, we'd see a Thor that was like in Infinity War, where he was starting to gain this wisdom, but right as he believes he starts gaining this wisdom, everything gets torn away from him. He's filled with the same rage that he had before when he was fighting. And then he lost. And that rage turned to pain, turned to heartache. Yeah. And it's like looking back on it, like, how do you respond to these things? Like, if somebody came up to you, it, and I know that Marvel initially took a lot of backlash for what they did to Thor in Endgame because, well, that's not Thor. Thor never had this stage, but the MCU is a far different universe than any other universe. It has its own universe code. So for people to be like, that's not what they did in the comic, this is a different universe. They are totally free to do what they want, and they're using that to figure out how their heroes are going to work. Like if they went comic for comic, it would be a far different MCU. The Endgame saga would have been far different than what it was. But them throwing in Fat Thor was something that nobody expected, but once everybody kind of came to terms with it, they all went, oh, that actually happens. Where you have these parents that go through extreme tragedies of losing somebody or losing a child, and all of a sudden they slip into this Great Depression. Or you have these people lose their parents early on in very tragic ways, all of a sudden they start slipping. Or there's extreme trauma in a child's life and they grow up having mental issues, where it's a great way to say everybody has this pain and it is totally natural. It does not take away your worthiness. And by having Thor show up like that and then having him still be worthy, is they are through this amalgamation of series, they're still putting in this message of, even though you might be experiencing great pain, even though you feel like you can't get out of bed most mornings, you are still worthy. You still have worth. Thor didn't lose his worthiness, he lost his abs. It's totally natural, and Thor is, I've heard it said, where Thor is the most human character in the MCU because of how he reacted to everything. And I can't think of a better way for them to treat this godlike figure and have him be that more worthy sense of a character. But yeah, that's just my thought. What do I know? I'm just a shipper. I'm just a shipper, a streamer, a writer. But what do I know? There's a lot of things where people come way too quickly to judge something and they don't take the time to understand it. They don't take the time to look at it for what it is. And that's what Thor was. Is it was people's reacted initially going, why would you do that to a character? Without looking back, as this is a connected universe, every movie is connected. This is completely and totally natural. I would be concerned if Thor didn't experience something like this. I would be concerned if they didn't acknowledge this in any way because they had suffered their greatest defeat. And now suddenly Thor was left with half of his kingdom, with no home, having to rebuild everything, with none of his family. And that's why it turns into one of the best character arcs in the film besides Iron Man. It's right up there with Iron Man and Steve for character arcs, which it should be. But what do I know? Anyways, check out the Twitch link in the bio. Check out the Twitter link. And check out Polarized. It's what I'm working on. It's a book about two superheroes. And the reason I wanted to talk about Thor is because in a lot of ways Thor relates to my heroes. They are extremely powerful heroes who are in extreme pain emotionally. Where even though they might be the strongest on the planet, they feel like they're the weakest. But anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to listen if you made it this far. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. You are loved. If you are listening to this, if you leave a comment, whatever, if you're just listening to this, know that you are loved and you are appreciated. So with that, I think I'm going to end this here. Stay cool, stay awesome, and you are awesome. Genuinely, genuinely, genuinely. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And I hope this works out and we can do more things like this in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much it.